"Daddy!" she called. No answer. She ran up the stairs, ignoring Carol's fake screams of, "You're trespassing!" She pushed open the door to her father's room and froze. There he was, Paul Mocha, the great, once proud man who built this mansion and fed half the village at Christmas. He was lying on a thin, stained mattress, his body shriveled like dried okra. His wrapper was barely covering his waist. His eyes, sunken, tired, opened slowly at the sound of the door. His beard grew like an abandoned forest, eyes sunken, mouth slightly open, weak, helpless. He turned his head slightly, and when he saw her, something inside him lit up. "Ifunanya, my daughter, you came." She fell to her knees. Tears, rage, shock. Behind her, villagers began entering slowly. Some gasped. Some started filming. A woman muttered, "Jesus wept." Auntie Caro appeared with a scarf now tied dramatically around her neck. "Ah, we were just about to clean him." Ifunanya stood up slowly, shaking. "You locked your brother in a room like a prisoner, spent his pension, built a house, and lied to me? We were just about to bathe him," Caro blurted. Ifunanya spun around. "Get out of this room. One more word from you and I'll beat you back in blue." She walked to her father, knelt beside him and held his hand gently. "I'm here now, Daddy. They won't touch you again." Villagers began to crowd the hallway. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. A woman fainted from the smell. One young girl near the door whispered, "So this is where Oga Paul has been?" Another muttered, "All those times we came to beg for salt, and they said he traveled to America to see his children." Ifunanya turned back to her father. She took his hand in hers. Then she reached for the small drawer beside the mattress. Inside, she found a black folder. She opened it. Dozens of withdrawal slips, amounts in 6 figures, all signed by Jerome Mocha. She stood up slowly, her voice calm. "Uncle Jerome," she called. He walked in with guilt already dripping from his forehead. "Yes?" She held up the papers. "Explain these," he stammered. It's for upkeep, for house maintenance. And how is this man the one dying while you wear perfume to breakfast?" He couldn't speak. She looked him dead in the eye. "You stole from him? You robbed a helpless man." Then she raised her phone and began recording. "To everyone watching this, this is the real face of greed. My father is alive, but was left here to rot while the people he trusted feasted on his name." Someone in the background clapped once. "This is what we call Judgment Day." Auntie Caro tried to sneak away. "Let me go and bring Dettel." "Don't come back," Ifunanya said without looking at her. Ifunanya glared at her. "You're the one smelling, Auntie. The room was already full of suffering. You just added shame." Paul lay quietly on the mattress, his head now propped gently on a folded towel. His eyes moved from face to face, slowly, as if trying to decide who among them had ever truly loved him. Then from the hallway, a voice piped up. "Is it true they locked Oga Paul in this room for months?" Another replied, "Locked? I heard they were using his pension to fund a house party," someone else hissed. Ain? So that's why Jerome's wife bought 4 wrappers in 1 week? Wicked people," Caro snapped. "Who said that? Who is spoiling my name like palm oil on white cloth?" A woman outside shouted back, "Your name spoiled itself." Jerome sighed heavily and sat down on the edge of the bed frame. "This is not how I planned this." Ifunanya folded her arms. "How did you plan it, Uncle? That we would never find out? That I would never come back? That my father would die quietly in a room he built with his own hands while you used his money to plaster your ceiling?" Jerome looked down. "It wasn't like that," Paul suddenly whispered, voice hoarse but clear. "It was exactly like that." Everyone turned. He coughed, then continued. "The day I gave Jerome my ATM card was the day I lost my voice in this house. He said he would help me, but help became silent. Silence became exile." Caro shifted uncomfortably. "We fed you every day. We even changed your bedsheet." Paul turned his head. Once. Dead silence. The air stood still. Even the fan creaked once and kept quiet again. Ifunanya knelt beside her father and took his hand. "Daddy, I'm sorry I came late." He smiled faintly. You came. That's all that matters. At that moment, a car horn sounded outside. It was a small convoy, one ambulance, one Hilux, and one white van marked Anambra State Welfare Department. Carol peeked through the curtain and screamed, Jesus, she called the government. Jerome jumped to his feet. You called them? Ifunanya stood up calmly. You see, Uncle, I'm not just my father's daughter. I'm also a citizen, and this is a crime. Two uniformed officers walked into the compound, their shoes clicking like judgment. Who is the primary caregiver of Mr. Paul Mocha? One asked. Jerome lifted his hand reluctantly. Follow us, sir, he stuttered. Wait, let me wear my slippers. Follow us barefoot. That's how truth walks. Caro tried to speak, but one officer raised his hand. Madam, if we open your mouth now, what will come out is pepper and lies? Please enter the van. The villagers gathered again. Phones came out, screens glowed. Somewhere someone was live streaming. Paul was gently wheeled into the ambulance by two medics. Ifunanya followed, adjusting the blanket around his shoulders. The crowd parted for her. Someone whispered, that girl is a blessing. Another said, if not for her, they would have buried that man while he was still breathing. Inside the ambulance, Paul smiled faintly. I was a fool, he whispered. Ifunanya took his hand. You are human. You believed in your brother. That's not foolishness. That's love. Tears rolled down his cheek. I thank God for you. The Lega sun blinked lazily over the rooftops of the private hospital as Paul Mocha lay on a real bed. Not a foam-thin apology. Clean sheets, AC humming softly, and nurses who spoke like they graduated from somewhere that used English properly. The private hospital room smelled like lavender disinfectant and fresh air conditioning. Paul, now wearing a clean white hospital robe, sat upright in his wheelchair, watching the quiet drip of the IV fluid beside him. His cheeks had a bit more color. His beard was neater. Life was crawling back into him. He had not seen this kind of comfort in months. His daughter, Ifunanya, sat beside him in a peach blouse and jeans, one hand gently massaging his arm, the other scrolling through her phone as she sent documents to a human rights lawyer. Paul turned his head to her. His face looked less like punishment and more like a man who had remembered how it felt to be human. You came for me, he said, voice clearer now. Ifunanya didn't look up. Even after everything, she sighed, dropped her phone, and faced him. You didn't make it easy, Daddy. You weren't exactly Father of the Year. But you're my father, and no matter how much you disappointed me, I wasn't going to let you die like a goat. He nodded slowly. A tear rolled down. Your mother warned me. She did. And you said she was not blood. I was foolish. Yes, extremely. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that heals and wounds at the same time. Later that afternoon, Paul's story hit the internet. Ifunanya posted it with pictures, receipts, and a small caption. My father was locked in his mansion for nearly a year, while his pension built a new house for his siblings. Check your uncles. Check your aunties. Check the gate. Within hours, blogs picked it up. Tweets flew. Facebook cooked it with comments. Justice for Paul. Do not retire to the village alone. Take your abroad children home to know their father's house began trending. The villagers who once smiled at Jerome began saying, we always knew something was fishy. But the girl gets power, Shah. Thank God her father brought her home during Christmas to know her roots. If she didn't know this village, her father would have died like a chicken. The mansion itself was now quiet. The new construction had stopped. And the gate? Oh, the gate had changed. Paul got stronger. He started physiotherapy. He smiled more. He even laughed once when Ifunanya caught him trying to Google how to rebuild your relationship with your estranged wife and children. One evening, as they sat on the hospital balcony watching the sky turn gold, Paul turned to her. I trained you in school, but I see now, your mother trained your heart. Ifunanya chuckled. Mummy said one day you'd need me. She was right. You think she'll ever forgive me? She already did. She always asks after you. Paul looked at her again. Thank you, Ifunanya, for not letting them bury me alive. She smiled, tears prickling her eyes. Don't thank me yet. We still have to clean that house. And I need to shave that beard. You're starting to look like a false prophet. They laughed. Real laughter this time. No tension, no regret, just relief. And in that moment, Paul knew one thing for sure. He had lost a wife. He had nearly lost his life. But he had gained something rare, a daughter with a loyalty he didn't deserve. Ifunanya sat beside him, reading a novel but just watching her father with one eye, as if afraid he'd vanish again. The room door opened gently, and a uniformed officer stepped in with a polite knock. "Sir?" The officer cleared his throat. "Madam, about the two suspects, Jerome and Caro. They're still in custody, awaiting arraignment on several charges: fraud, abuse, forgery, attempted murder by neglect." Paul raised his hand weakly. "Enough, please." The officer blinked. "Sir?" Paul turned slowly to his daughter. "I want to see them." Ifunanya stared at him. "Daddy, are you sure? You don't need that stress right now. I'm not doing it for them, baby. I'm doing it for me." At the police station, two worn plastic chairs were pulled into the corner of the reception room. Caro sat with a swollen eye and mouth sealed shut, not from guilt, but injury. Jerome sat beside her, now thinner, his flashy senator outfit replaced. Paul, rolled in by Ifunanya and trailed by a stern-looking lawyer, was quiet for a moment before he spoke. "Jerome, Caro, I trusted you with everything I had. My health, my house, my life. I almost died in that room. Because of you." Jerome dropped to his knees. "Brother, please." "I'm not finished." Paul raised his voice, shocking even Ifunanya. "But I'm not going to die angry, and I will not let hate follow me into my new life." He looked up at the officer. "Withdraw the charges." Everyone blinked. Caro gasped audibly. "Ha! God, this man has Jesus in his liver." Jerome burst into ugly sobs. "Brother Paul, I swear, even if you tell me to carry that wheelchair to America, I go to push you. They go like Uber driver." Paul chuckled bitterly. "Just stay far from me." Ifunanya stepped forward, firm as ever. "We're dropping the case, but don't think we forgot. You're not welcome in our lives again. This was mercy, not amnesia." Jerome and Caro nodded like goats caught in cassava. A week later, the entire town gathered again. Not for gossip this time, but for admiration. At the Anambra Airport departure gate, Paul sat in a sleek black wheelchair, dressed in a cream Isiagu outfit with red coral beads shining on his wrist. Ifunanya wore a sharp green jumpsuit and black shades. They looked like a diplomatic team heading to a summit. Villagers came one by one to greet them. Even that old woman who used to peep through windows now brought malt and biscuits. As the boarding call echoed through the airport, Paul smiled and looked around one last time. "This soil tried to swallow me," he whispered. "But my daughter? She uprooted me." Ifunanya grinned. "And replanted you in America." Welcome to America. New York's JFK Airport was buzzing with motion, but at Gate 7, time slowed. As Paul was wheeled out, two young airport staff waved tiny Nigerian flags. One of them saluted jokingly. "Welcome back, Citizen Oga." Paul laughed, a deep, healed laugh. His eyes watered as he whispered, "I never thought I'd see this land again." Ifunanya wiped her eyes. "Daddy, this is just the beginning." As they exited into the glowing American evening, one thing was clear. They didn't just escape a prison of betrayal. They flew into freedom and togetherness. Thank you for watching. What do you think of this story? Let me know of your thoughts in the comment section below. Until I bring another intriguing story your way again. Bye for now.